let me introduce to you. So the way we're going to do this deep dive into B2B marketing, Jad is going to kick us off. And then we're going to have a chat with Hande, and then we're going to have throughout the session plenty of opportunities. We want it to be an interactive session, so please feel free. I'll be monitoring the chat. I think you also have the raise hand button, so you'll have plenty of opportunities to also unmute yourself and chime into the discussion. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Jad Hajj. Jad is a partner and vice president with Strategy and in Dubai, and he's a long-time Endeavor mentor. Jad has a wealth of expertise in communications, digital media, and technology, with global experience in strategic and business planning, digitization business models, industry convergence, innovation, and entrepreneurship. So Jad, I will hand it over to you to start us on the deep dive into B2B marketing.
Great. So as Dalia said, I'm a partner with Strategy, and I do a lot of work with technology players, telecom operators, and media players, particularly here in the GCC. I'm based out of Dubai. And within what I do, I focus a lot on helping clients pursue business in the B2B segment. As you probably know, the B2B segment here in the region is very much skewed towards government. So government is also typically a large client of our clients. So we help them pursue opportunities within government across the GCC. What we're going to talk about today is really, we labeled it as deep dive, but it's really some concepts, benchmarks, and case studies on how B2B companies pursue marketing and sales, particularly when it comes to lead generation. So what is the most effective way to generate leads and convert leads into sales, which is obviously the purpose of anyone who wants to do business. And maybe as Dalia said, let it be interactive. If you guys have questions on specific slides, please feel free to raise your hand or ask the question. We can either take it during the presentation or towards the end. After this presentation, and I'm a consultant, so I have to show you guys some theoretical slides at the beginning. Bear with me, and then we'll open it up to to a more interactive Q&A, and I'm sure Hande will also have more hands-on and relevant ideas as well to churn in. All right, so let's get started. Let me first start by a broad definition of what B2B marketing and sales is, and the reason why I'm saying marketing and sales, because obviously these go hand in hand. And when we talk about the journey of customers, we typically look at it along these elements that you have down below on the slide, starting with awareness. So creating awareness about a certain value proposition, about a solution that you as a company offer, generating or creating interest by your customers. The customers start researching, identifying options, maybe doing some competitive analysis on who else provides similar value proposition or options, evaluating, demoing, and prototyping is becoming big now. If you are dealing with if you are to sell a solution to a customer nowadays in the business segment, particularly on the larger segment of businesses, typically they ask for a demo, they ask for a prototype or a proof of concept. So you have to be ready always to demo your solution, to demo your value proposition to customers. Then naturally the purchase and the retention and upselling comes. So this is a very generic marketing and sales funnel. Again, the reason why we look at marketing and sales together is this is a continuum. This is really, there's no real separation between marketing and sales. Typically, people think of marketing as a more strategic function because it also includes the segmentation, the targeting, the value proposition definition, and sales is the more transactional activity to actually convert a certain lead into a purchase. But it's really a continuum, and it's important that marketing and sales go hand in hand. Okay. So again, more theory. You probably heard a lot about a push and a pull approach, and the reason why I want to talk about this, it's it really differs. The approach that you would pursue in terms of marketing and sales would differ based on the value proposition that you have. So based on the product or the service that you are offering. If it is a simple service, you typically would follow a push approach, which means that you let you focus on identifying customers that you want to target. You pursue outbound marketing, so you do ads, you participate in trade shows. Your sales approach is typically high touch, so you need to have a typically direct sales team that needs to educate the client or the customer and influence the evaluation and pursue or close the sale. And customer support is typically focused on customer support, less so on retention and upselling, which is needed in the more complex services on the right side, which is the pull approach. So on the pull approach, again, typically this is for more complex services. This is where you are selling a solution or a customized proposition, where you typically follow an inbound marketing approach. So you create content, you let people find you through whatever word of mouth or referral or through search, and then typically the sales approach is more consultative. So your salespeople need to handhold customers or clients through the journey of research and evaluation, through the definition of the actual tailored solution that they need, and the demo, what I mentioned earlier with regards to demo or prototyping. Again, this is something that is important in the case of a pull approach. And last but not least, customer support in this case is not just a service desk or a help desk, but it's really a customer success manager that looks at the whole lifetime value of customers and pushes for upselling and retention. Okay, again, this is typically this approach, the pull approach, is typically used when you have a more complex proposition to take to market. So very different from simple recurring type of services that are easy to understand, that are typically available and do not require customization. So they're off-the-shelf type of products and services. Okay. Now, there's been a lot of thinking put, and actually we're going to talk about a survey that was recently made, meaning last year, that addressed around 2,000 businesses globally and across industries on the various aspects of B2B marketing. To start with, the effectiveness of channels. We get a lot of questions from clients, and these are typically large organizations, on where should we put our money, our marketing money. Should we do print advertising? Should we do online advertising? Or should we focus more on trade shows and email marketing? And this survey, and this was not done by us, by the way, this is a third party that did the survey, highlights that the website continues to be a very effective way to reach customers in the B2B segment, at least. So are conferences, trade shows, and email marketing. So these channels or mediums continue to be very effective, particularly as the SME sector and here in the region again continue to be to grow and continue to be an important segment that is developing. So paid media, again, the print advertising, online advertising, even social media showed less effectiveness and less interest as well from marketeers in B2B companies in terms of investment. Second question was regarding format. So what format should we use? Again, as you would expect, probably audiovisual content and digital content continues to be high. So there's increased spending from B2B marketeers on this type of content. And typically for the case of medium to large companies, more and more focus on original content that addresses pain points of clients and sheds light on how these pain points could be addressed by adopting, a certain solution. Again, we're going to talk about specific cases later on in the presentation, but original content that is produced by companies to attract or to raise awareness and to educate customers on not just their own proposition, but also on broader business concepts and broader business issues, and how to address these issues is quite an effective way to reach out to customers and generate interest. Again, the survey highlighted that quality content is important. So there's a higher success rate if you spend time and effort and hence obviously money on higher content quality. I work with a lot of businesses here in the GCC, and we push them to and you can see this on the right side, we support them to generate original content, as I said, to document these in white papers, in case studies. And typically these are extremely effective, especially if done with a credible partner and is data-based, so there is data that supports the argumentation. And typically these white papers or case studies don't necessarily have to talk about the exact proposition that you are offering as a company. It could be, as I said earlier, a generic discussion on problems that companies face and how solutions that you or others offer could address their problem. And indirectly, this generates interest in your specific solution and hence generates leads down the road. Again, white papers and case studies is a very effective way to reach out to customers in the B2B space. In terms of spend, so where do B2B marketeers spend their marketing dollar today? Again, content creation is extremely important. Content marketing staff, and this is an important point, because in B2B marketing and B2B content creation is quite different from B2C, and typically it's difficult to find people that that understand this differentiation and can generate credible content. So there's a gap, in finding strong B2B marketeers in general. Hence, a lot of spend and a lot of money goes towards attracting and retaining this talent. And this applies again mostly to larger organizations or larger businesses. In terms of popularity of marketing methods to generate leads, email campaigns continue to be very effective. So segmenting your customer base, identifying a certain segment that you want to pursue, and reaching out through email campaigns. So is educational content, the point that we mentioned earlier, but even in-person events and trade shows and what have you continue to be quite effective. Unfortunately, with COVID, these are not happening as often as in the past, but it is an effective way to reach your audience if you are in the B2B space. A couple of more slides, and then we'll move into a more interesting discussion. So the purpose, naturally, of marketing is always to generate leads, right? And eventually convert these leads into sales. The challenges, if asked, what are the top challenges that we face as a business in generating leads? There's always the point on quality leads. There's always the volume versus quality discussion, and how do we make sure that the leads that we are generating from a certain campaign, are high quality, hence the conversion rate is higher, hence the ROI is higher. So this is, always top of mind for B2B marketeers, and is always mentioned as a high, challenge or a big challenge to address. Eventually, this is something, everything we mentioned about quality of content, about the channels to use will help. But we'll talk more also about, the use of analytics, the use of segmentation to improve as well, the quality of leads later on. The relevance of the content is also very important. So making sure that the content that you're putting out there is relevant, from a timeliness perspective, from a relevance to the situation of your customers or clients. So nowadays in COVID, for example, if you are to talk about travel without mentioning safety, and it's not going to be very effective. So making sure that the relevance of the content is also a very important measure to ensure higher quality leads, hence higher conversion rate. We mentioned about email as being a effective way to generate leads. Search engine optimization obviously is another, content marketing as well. But in terms of nurturing leads, so beyond generating leads or generating interest, to take the lead all the way to closure, you need to continue to follow up or nurture the lead, and obviously in-person meetings continue. And nowadays Zoom meetings and VCs are the most effective way to actually engage with the client, continue to explain to them the proposition, clarify to them any questions they have, and again take the lead into closure. So this was the outcome of the survey. People still continue to see, and this is pre-COVID, in-person meetings as the most effective way. Another important point that typically marketeers miss, and going back to the first slide that I showed, the continuum of marketing and sales, without feedback, without closing the loop from sales, from if it's a direct sales force or even digital channels, and providing this feedback back to the marketeers, you're missing a big. This link is extremely important, and the feedback loop back to the marketing or campaign managers is extremely important to have an effective campaign, and continue to improve the quality of the leads and the quality of the conversion rate. So this link between marketing and sales is very important, and the reason why I'm mentioning it here is probably not relevant in the case of smaller or startups, but in the case of larger organizations, more legacy organizations, they always separate marketing and sales as two different departments or two different functions, and you find that there's a disconnect there. Hence, there's no effective alignment on objectives, and the quality of leads that get generated by the marketeers is not necessarily high. Hence, conversion drops. So this alignment is very important, again, maybe for more relevant for larger organizations. So let's talk more now about how to generate leads. So we bucketed the sources of leads into 8 categories. One being web content mining. So this is using bots or using even tools like Google Analytics to be able to identify segments or customers that you want to pursue, and generate what is called lead reports. So a list of leads or potential clients for your service or for your value proposition. Naturally, this is becoming more and more important. There's a lot of companies that offer this type of service, and you could outsource this. You give them certain criteria on the type of customers you're looking for, what are the needs that you fulfill as a product or as a value proposition, and they come back with a list of potential clients that can also be scored along certain dimensions that you agree on with the agency. The second is to look at your own data, right? And basically use, if you are an existing business with existing customers and existing data, use this data to do proper segmentation, micro segmentations in some cases, and generate insights on potential upselling, cross-selling opportunities, right? And this happens a lot, particularly in e-commerce, in the B2B e-commerce space. The third is, and this is something very relevant for companies that operate in the GCC, is using government or third-party data to get access to businesses, the spend of these businesses on various categories. A lot of this data is public, as governments in the region, in the GCC, want to encourage, and grow the SME segment and the startup ecosystem. So they are enabling a lot of tools, and they are providing data to SMEs and to startups to actually match or do a matchmaking exercise with the larger entities. Many of these larger entities are typically government or semi-government entities, that also have a mandate or have certain KPIs to engage with small businesses. So don't underestimate the ability to get support from the government to help you create leads and use this power, that the government has, or this leverage the government has to get access to customers. The fourth is, again, we spoke briefly about search engine optimization. Naturally, this is extremely important. Having your content out there, a website, the basics basically. Fifth is click-through analysis and optimization of the user experience on your channel, whatever the channel is. This is also very important to create this funnel and make sure that the customer is moving along the funnel in a seamless way, and there are no hurdles, there are not drop-throughs or failures along the funnel. Content marketing, we mentioned this several times. So creating and generating original content that would eventually, that would raise awareness, educate, and eventually generate, a lead for you. Paid traffic continues to be out there, so you can always pay for advertising, even though it's becoming less important, particularly in the B2B segment. It always is an option to place ads and to pay for ads, be it banner ads or search, to generate also leads. And last but not least is using your own direct channel, digital channel, typically chats or social media, also to generate interest and generate leads into your value proposition. Final few slides, and then we'll switch. In terms of KPIs, if you are to allocate KPIs, or have KPIs allocated on this whole marketing function, B2B marketing, naturally the volume of the leads. So how many leads is this function or team or campaign generating? What is the quality? And this is based, this links back to the conversion from a lead and the movement of the lead along the funnel down to closure. Eventually, what is the return on investment? I spend $100 on this campaign or on this effort. How much, how many leads ended up closing, and what is the value that was generated? And this could be calculated along, customer lifetime value as well. And the response time, which is basically how fast, you are moving a lead from one step to another in the funnel. A lot of this, these are basic KPIs. There's obviously a lot more. But these are at a high level the categories of KPIs that you need to look at if you are to measure performance of your B2B marketing function, team, agency, whatever it is. All right. Let's maybe I'll skim very quickly through a couple of cases, and these are actual cases where companies engage with agencies or in some cases launched on their own campaigns and in the B2B segment, and some indication of the impact or the results. I have a couple of these, and then some concluding thoughts, and then we'll open it up. So Zipcard, I guess some of you might know Zipcard. They are historically they have a network of cars basically that you could rent by the hour. Historically, they focused on consumer and then on SMEs. They wanted to penetrate the government segment, which is a difficult segment to crack, and that was in the UK. So they engaged a marketing agency, a B2B marketing agency called Really to help generate, what we call sales qualified leads. So it's a high quality leads that are ready to basically be converted into a sale. And some of the lessons learned from this exercise, you can read this, I can share the presentation and you can read it offline, but some of the lessons learned is segmentation is very important. So we typically think of our customers as one size fits all. It's not the case. You really need to understand who your, what is your target segment, and try to segment as much as possible, but also understand the decision maker within each segment, particularly in B2B. That's very important because typically it's either the procurement guy or the CEO if it's a smaller company, or the that are decision makers. So you need to make sure that you link with the right person there. The scoring of the leads is also important. So not all leads are created equal. It's very important that you have a methodology, and there's a lot of theory behind this, on how do you assign a score to a lead. What is a higher quality lead, so I can put more effort, or maybe tag the right people and the right capabilities to close this lead. Again, not all leads are created equal. And then the point on interdepartmental collaboration, more relevant for bigger companies where this disconnect between marketing and sales exists, and the more you establish this link and you create bridges between marketing and sales, the more effective the outcome is. Another case was for this is an aircraft company, actually, Embraer, that also hired an agency to raise awareness on their product, which is a medium-sized aircraft, but also increase the share of audience. So increasing overall awareness about the brand, and improving the engagement of potential customers with the brand. What these guys did is they followed an integrated marketing communication. So it's really looking at a holistic approach from again, along the funnel, the famous funnel we spoke about earlier. So from awareness to intention, to the demo or the prototyping. How do we make sure that we have enough communication out there to really ensure that we are moving along the customer, when they are moving in the funnel? How do you use data to better target and to generate insights and address the questions proactively that a customer could have, related to safety in this case, related to comparison, to competitors. So have readily or proactively generated content that addresses potential question customer have, and this is based on data and research. But also, how do we increase referrals and testimonials? Testimonials are, as you can imagine, very important in the case of B2B. Another case, and this is a tech company, a small tech company. They do open source data. They also wanted to shift their marketing approach toward an account-based marketing, and this is, by the way, an important approach. As you develop a business and you start having sizable accounts, it's important that you tailor your marketing approach to these accounts. So really focused account-based marketing. And they wanted to also communicate in less technical manner. A lot of companies do this mistake of communicating the technology they have, especially if they are in the tech space and they are offering a technology-enabled solution. They talk about the technology itself and not the solution and the problem that you're trying to solve. So this agency helped them, define the right communication messages. It helped them, again, generate insights and create this account-based marketing, and they also help them analyze decision-making units. So who decides, within a typical organization, on the purchasing of a couch-based solution. Copywriting is another important element, especially when your product or your proposition is complex and technical. Many times, again, if you leave it to the founder, they would talk to you about the technology itself and not about the solution and the problem that the solution addresses. So it's important. Copywriting and the way you write or edit your content is also quite important. Let me wrap it up with this slide. So a couple of learnings that I think you should, I want to leave with you guys. So one is we like benchmarks as consultants, and benchmarks indicate there's a clear trend towards more interactive digital media. So obviously digital media is the way to go, but what's important is to have a well communicated foundation. So really you need to think about who do you want to reach, this whole segmentation, how do you want to target them, and what kind of proposition you want to communicate to them. So this holistic approach to B2B marketing. Content is king, as they always say. Even in this case, it is king, and improving content quality is the most effective way to increase the quality of the leads and the conversion rate. So higher quality content, more engaging content will automatically mean higher flow rate of leads and conversion. The alignment, the point I mentioned, alignment between marketing and sales, very important. Sales people are very short-term focused. They're driven by KPIs. Marketing are typically more creative and more longer-term focused. It's important that this bridge is established and the feedback loop is established between sales and marketing. Otherwise, the campaign effectiveness would reduce. More and more important to create a leads management function. Many times, a campaign is launched, a lot of leads are created, and then they're not taken care of, so that no one is there to push them through the funnel. And we find that happening often now, where sales is, as I said, focused on short term. So these leads end up stuck in the funnel with no one taking care of them. So a lot of companies are actually establishing lead management functions to help keep an eye, track, and push leads along the funnel. And unpaid media is more effective nowadays than typical advertising and legacy type paid media, so advertising, be it online or offline. So these are the 5 top things to keep in mind when doing a B2B marketing campaign. and again, this is mostly benchmark based, but also based on experience and what we recommend or what we advise to our clients. Maybe let's open it up to questions. I can see that there's a number of questions. I can't see the actual questions, but
a lot of the comments were actually requests to share the slides.
Okay.
This is amazing data. I'd love to share it with my team. Can we share the slides?
Yes, sure. I'll do that. I'll send it to you, Dalia.
Yeah, that would be great. So, Hande, I have a lot of questions for you, but before we jump into the chat with Hande, I want to see if any of the entrepreneurs in the room have any questions for Jad or any comments on what he discussed.
Yeah, I might have one question for you, Jad. In terms of the profile of the head of marketing, that's quite different to what it was before, right? Where you had somebody that was an organizer of events that would manage prints and whatever. Where do you think you find the good marketing heads for B2B businesses now?
Look, I think the point on content, I would say, because a lot of the value chain is typically outsourced, right? A lot of it you would rely on. Can you guys see me or?
No, we've lost your camera.
Okay, I don't know what happened. Okay, so I was saying, the most important quality in a head of marketing in the case of B2B is their ability to craft content that is meaningful, easily understandable by the clients that you're targeting, and is able to communicate the value proposition that you have as a company in a simple, straightforward way. Now, obviously, I mean, there's marketing is multifaceted. You need someone who understands how to take this content and put it in different channels, be it digital or online or what have you. But to me, if there is one quality that is kind of most important, I would say this: the ability to communicate and kind of abstract value proposition into something that people, your target segment, would be able to understand and digest, and hence create interest and create awareness of the solution. And typically this is a very difficult skill to find, right? Again, if you talk to many CEOs of small businesses who kind of started their companies, or especially on the technology, because I deal a lot of technology companies. They typically end up explaining to you the technology, and you as a customer would not be able to really understand what does this mean to you, how does this address the problem. So that's basically, I would say, what is important in terms of head marketing. At least that's my view.
Great, thank you. So do we have any more questions at this point?
I have a question. Yeah, so Jad, great presentation. It's more of like, I'd like your opinion on our sort of circumstances, right? We're in the food business. We cook and deliver on behalf of restaurants. And the marketing of those brands, sourcing the consumers, is typically the responsibility of the restaurants on our platform, right? Mm-hmm. They have to handle it. They source the demand. We cook the food in a nutshell. Mm-hmm. And over time, we onboarded a lot of, as our brand pool continued to grow, there was a predicament where a lot of the brands don't really market effectively, right? Mm-hmm. In the food sector. So we started toying with the idea of building that function and that division in-house, right? Mm-hmm. We did work with a number of third-party sort of outsourced agencies and had mixed results, so to speak. When I look at the product, the playbook or the mechanisms that you presented, right? I wonder, how realistic it would be to build the function in-house with the right segmentation, the right ranking across all our different brands, because each one of them have a unique consumer pool and a unique identity, versus strengthening our outsource network. How would you approach something like that?
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously depends on the size and the complexity of the business. So I understood at a high level what you guys do, and I think one point to mention is there's much less agencies that are effective in B2B marketing than what you would find in B2C, right? Particularly in our part of the world, in the GCC. I mean, it's been improving over time, driven mostly by governments, believe it or not. A lot of government is now trying to promote, government entities and agencies are trying to promote themselves and what they do. Hence, there's been, a pickup of business in the B2B agency space, but still there is a big gap between B2C and B2B. So I think, if you are a technology based startup, and many of you guys, I would assume, are, and you have the right capabilities in terms of data analytics and data scientists and what have you, I would assume the missing capability, again going back to the earlier question, is on content creation, right? The ability to abstract this solution, to create attractive content, and the pitch, really. And this is a gap that potentially someone in the organization could fill, either the founders or someone around the founders. So yes, I would say insourcing a lot of this makes sense, given the circumstances of our region, given the nature of if you want, the split of business between B2B and B2C, and the tendency to focus more on B2C. I think it makes sense for smaller companies, startups, to do things on their own, especially if you're a technology enabled business. So it's in your comfort zone, right? You understand your data, you are able to manipulate it, and you are able to generate insights from it, probably more effectively than any agency would do. But don't miss this link to content. So the copywriting, the content creation is a very important element.
Thank you. So I want to move to Hande a little bit. Tobias, I saw your question. I'm just going to come back to it in a minute. So just to give you some context, Hande is the co-founder of Insider. Insider is a growth management platform that helps digital marketers drive growth across the funnel. Microsoft named her most successful woman entrepreneur of the year. Crunchbase ranked her one of the top 3 women CEOs outside the US. Insider, of course, is an Endeavor entrepreneur, and they're an Endeavor outlier, which means they are in the top 5% of the fastest growing companies within the Endeavor portfolio. So clearly, I mean, Hande, you're one of Endeavor's greatest success stories. And I wanted to ask you, I'm going to start with some of the questions, or before I go into that, can you tell us, please, a little bit about Insider, what you do, and what your typical client looks like?
Okay, sure. First of all, hello to everyone from Istanbul, one of the cities of the world which doesn't belong to East or West either. I'm welcoming today with my Turkish coffee, as you see. I also like different part of the world. The coffee is in different part of the world, but Turkish coffee is kind of, addiction for me. And we like to always put some Turkish, actually, flavor to anything we do. And, I think this is part of the world is pretty much hungry to create stories in B2B SaaS, which is the feature of the technology, I believe. So I'm very glad to see the entrepreneurs who are running their B2B SaaS businesses. So congratulations to all, first of all. That was kind of a very bold action that you have taken by establishing a B2B SaaS company. I'm sure which wasn't a very easy decision, but I think future belongs to B2B SaaS companies. This is the first thing. And again, this part of the world needs more success stories in this industry. So thank you very much, Dalia, for your intro, but I feel a little bit ashamed because more than Insider success, you talk about my successes, actually, which is not the case, because my success actually belongs to organization, the company, and vice versa, I think. So Insider currently is a global product company, B2B SaaS company, with clients from 25 different countries and with offices from 25 different countries. That's a very actually holiday, because today it's a kind of day that we have been waiting for the last couple of years. Today, Insider officially expanded to US. So that's a very, very first call that I have taken after this very important news. And we hired our US country manager. So this call is very special to me. It's the first call I have taken after Insider officially expanded to the US. And we have enterprise clients from 25 different countries. And all those are all global brands, including the world brands like HP, Lenovo, Estée Lauder. And also we have a lot of clients from airline verticals, as well as the marketplaces. So in a nutshell, in every region, we have clients from different verticals, but generally top 300, top 400 online businesses or e-commerce companies of all countries that we are in. The company is currently 580 people. The majority of them are, of course, product people and developers. This 580 out of this 580 people, 40 to 50 of them are our marketing team, but they don't call themselves marketing team. They call themselves marketing team as a spirit. And those people, 40 people in marketing, or even it might be 45 already, they are staying in different regions, because in time we have decided to hire local marketing people, which could boost our B2B content marketing activities. I think we are going to talk about it in detail. And also we are 6 co-founders, which is a little bit unusual, I know. But when you share the same values in life, I think it's quite manageable and it's a great privilege. What we do, actually, we have a growth management platform which gets integrated with online businesses, and we track the user behavior. Based on this user behavior, we do predictive segmentation and multi-channel journey orchestration to boost the conversion optimization of the e-commerce companies or online businesses. This is what we do basically. This is a very crowded space. We can also talk about how we differentiate. But what we do, how we do, those are important things of course, for a company or for an organization. But more than this, I think, as a last sentence of mine, it will be good to define why does Insider exist. Well, actually, every organization has a very strong reason for existence, and this is generally a romantic reason. To us, we wanted to show whole world that breakthrough product companies can be also created outside of Silicon Valley. This is why we started Insider in the very, very first place. As one ex-entrepreneurs, we could do many things, but we have decided to start a product software company because we believe that this region needs that kind of story. So that's the brief of Insider.
So I want to ask you, because technology supposedly transcends geographic boundaries, but in reality, it's very difficult to expand across geographies and to expand into global markets. And congratulations on your expansion to the US. That's a huge deal. And I want to understand, this is one of the questions that kept coming up from our entrepreneurs. How were you able to successfully access these global markets? What challenges did you face along the way, and how did you overcome them and build such a global brand?
You know what? It was so difficult, but at the same time, it wasn't that difficult. What I mean is, first of all, one of the most important advantages of being in B2B SaaS sector is you don't have to invest that much when you are expanding the new country, because your product is working on the cloud, and what you need is only salespeople or customer success people on board in the field for those countries. So once you have a strong product, and when the market barriers are not that, let's say, high, and if you are an applicable business model to all the countries like us, because we don't have to customize our product based on the country, because the product itself learns from actually its own algorithm. So it can be adapted to the many other regions or users in the regions automatically. So this is why for us it was just about going to a new country, finding a couple of clients, getting these clients as a reference for others, and that was the whole idea. But if you ask me, Hande, what was needed to go to a new country and how you made it happen? Of course, there were a lot of factors which accelerated that. First of all, the first one I would say, having a one dedicated co-founder on board for this. We have our VP of growth, and the expansions to a new country, if you are actually selling to enterprise clients like us, needs a lot of dedication. It's not like you hire someone there and then they will try to sell to some of the enterprise business. That doesn't work. So this is why our VP of growth has been in those countries for a couple of months, hire the first people, country managers, sales managers, or customer success team. And he trained them, and he actually teach them how to do sales and how to bring the first clients. And after this, each country has get the wind behind them. Actually, he went for another country, hiring also very strong, dedicated country manager. So I think this is the first idea. A dedicated, preferably co-founders who can actually start or kick off those markets and accelerate the growth in those countries. So the first criteria I think is for success for the expansion is dedication. Second, I think scalable products. If you have to build your products in a customized way for each country, I think it's a little bit difficult because it needs, I don't say it's impossible, of course, but the nature of our product didn't require any customization for each country. So it was a very easy decision for us to go to a new country without any huge investment in terms of time and in terms of money. This is the second thing. And third thing, I would say endeavor. I'm really honest about this because once you go to a new country, you have three things that you need to check to make a decision to enter this country or not. The first criteria is actually meeting with the influencers in the region to understand the nature of this country, and then you are trying to understand the dimensions of the country. Second thing is seeing the other B2B SaaS companies, couple of other companies, and understand the difficulties that they are facing. And the third one is, of course, seeing a couple of clients to see their first reaction about usage to your product. And this is actually where Endeavor comes in. This is the most well-networked entrepreneurship organization that I have been in so far. So Endeavor is a great source, great friend. Even knowing that there are Endeavor people on board in each country that you are expanding, it's a great privilege. You don't feel alone. It has also emotional support. So we have also actually, it's like chicken and egg thing. You cannot just go to Endeavor and tell them that please make an intro with a couple of customers and wait for it. This is the right way to do. You need to also push them, and then when you push them, they also start to push you, and then you become more creative about building ideas for what we can do more. And this is one of the things that we get help, because it was like a starting point to us. Endeavor offices, Endeavor people, and their intros, their connections, their ideas about the market, the mentorship opportunities. So having a partner like Endeavor on board while we are expanding to new countries was a super actually powerful resource. So I think those are the criteria that made us successful about going into new countries.
So I want to ask you now about your team structure and how it evolved as the company grew. So specifically your marketing team. How was it in the early days versus now? And then when do you decide to have a local team in each market or in each country versus having a centralized team back in headquarters?
Yeah, I think it's also pretty much in line with your strategy of differentiation. For example, for us, B2B as a B2B SaaS company, having a differentiation point among our competitors was building a local support. Because the countries that we are in, especially Asia, we started from Turkey and then went to Middle East and then Asia. And the Asian countries are kind of a high potential also markets for our US-based competitors. But the thing the point that they are missing is they are just trying to give support to those countries by some representatives which are located in the US. So those are basically the underserved markets in terms of customer service and in terms of also marketing. So it was, first of all, it was very important to create localized customer success team, which was a differentiation for Insider. And I think producing localized content with local marketing managers on board was very important, because content doesn't mean only an ebook for a B2B SaaS company. Content meaning roundtable meetings, content meaning influencer programs, content meaning bringing all of the e-commerce managers all together in a dinner in this country and building this network and share knowledge and know-how with them and vice versa. So you can't do it with people, marketing people who are not on board or who are not localized in those countries. So localization was kind of a decision that we made almost like 3 years ago. This was the 4th year of the company. And after we especially expansion to Asia, we said that for Korea, for Japan, for Malaysia, as a B2B SaaS company who is actively producing content, it's very important to have marketing people on board for those events, also for creating content in their language, and also interacting them face to face was very important. So this is why I think this is kind of a decision we made in our 4th year.
Great. So in terms of customer acquisition so obviously it's much easier and much less costly to generate repeat business from your existing customers than it is to acquire new ones.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
How much of your marketing efforts and how much of your marketing budget goes towards retention versus acquisition? And what strategies do you employ for both?
Okay, that's a great question. But I think it's a little bit difficult to give a ratio for this, because I think for the nature of our business, the marketing team mostly supports the new acquisition. Of course, they can also positive effect in the retention by building or by nurturing the existing customers, and also helping them to, let's say, coming together via events and creating a lot of know-how for them, or injecting knowledge. But if you ask me, their contribution to retention, it's so limited, because for us, retention meaning the effective usage of the product and bringing more return on investment. And second thing is, of course, this ROI maximization is 95% dependent to customer success team. So for the marketing, I would say they have a positive effect on retention, but not there's no very specific. I mean, I can say that all the activities of the retention or marketing can have a positive effect on the retention, but still I wouldn't say it is a quantifiable contribution on that. Regarding the acquisition side, of course, but still we are not kind of a company who could optimize marketing contribution for new acquisition. We are working on this for a long time, maybe 5 years, 6 years. We have actually defined our funnel like for the MQLs, SQLs, and we also measure the effect of the new marketing to new acquisition. But some of the metrics can be very, very easy to measure, but some of them are not. For example, you go to event, you collect some cards, and you also create brand awareness in this event, in this conference as one of the speakers, or maybe sometimes you have a boost. But you can measure how many leads that you have brought through this event. So it's same for example, an article that you published in, let's say, TechCrunch or Tech in Asia. So it's a challenge still that we can't measure them 100% accurately. But of course, we have already created a marketing automation system to target the potential leads, and then we measure how much marketing qualified leads has been created, and how many of them have been converted to sales, and how about our SEO. So we, with digital marketing specialists, we are working on those things actually very hardly, because it's an important contribution for new acquisition for a B2B SaaS marketing company. This is what I think. This is what I thought.
Okay, thank you. So I don't want to hog the conversation. I'm sure there are a lot of questions, but I have one more question for you before we open it up for discussion with both you and Jad. So hindsight is 2020, and obviously looking at your business today, clearly Insider is very successful, but I'm sure, like everyone else in the room, you've also had your fair share of mistakes and bad decisions. Knowing what you know today, is there something that you would have done differently, or what is the thing that that Hande of today wishes could go back to Hande of 5 years ago or 8 years ago and tell her to do differently?
Many things. But before mentioning some of those things, because if you are going to count those mistakes, maybe we should extend this session a couple of more hours, but I wouldn't do that. So I will just count the first couple of the mistakes. But before mentioning this, I would like to share one thing. Thank you very much for
marketing. Sorry, Hande, but with a focus on your B2B marketing.
Okay, sure. That's okay. Okay, that's a more specific one. Then it will take less. But before starting, I would like to mention one important thing, which might be a little bit out of the context, but I feel obliged to mention that. Thank you very much for calling us a successful company. But I don't find ourselves successful, because success is a very controversial definition for an entrepreneur. And when you feel successful, I think you are kind of, at the end, and because you never feel successful, even though you do good things. I think success at least can be defined as when you actualize yourself. So self-actualization, just like the top of the pyramid of the Maslow hierarchy of needs. So we get funded by Sequoia. We are now in 25 different countries. We have great people. Are you successful? Actually, no. What is the success definition for us? We would like to build a great company which can be a model for all the regions, all the entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs of the region, and that they are going to be proud of. So until that day, we don't feel successful, or I don't feel successful. This is the first thing. Anyways, so regarding the marketing mistakes, the first thing, we would have hired a CMO much more earlier. This is the first thing. because the functions, support functions in a B2B SaaS company, like marketing, like finance, like, I don't know, operations, their importance can be underestimated due to the importance of the growth. So once you start to become a global or kicking your markets in for different countries, starting from that day, I think you should start to build a very strong marketing team. This is the first thing. Second thing is, I would try to unlock the help of the digital marketing much more earlier. I feel like we were also a little bit late about this. This is the second mistake that I think we did. And the third thing is, one of the most important weapon for a B2B SaaS company is obviously content. I think in terms of the events, we are running a lot of successful events, conferences, but I think in terms of creating the content itself via, articles or even social media, we stayed a little bit vague about this because we have underestimated always the importance of that. But as a company serving to digital marketers and the e-commerce companies, I think we should have boosted them more via ebooks or articles or with a different existence point much more earlier. We do it now, by the way, but it could by hiring more content managers, or even if you can't find them, you can actually find them as an outsource. We should have started earlier. This is what I think. We should actually have much more stronger content earlier. This is what I think.
Okay. So I still have 2 pages of questions that I can ask, but I want to give people a chance to chime in. In the meantime, until you put in your questions in the chat or give me some sort of indication that you want to ask a question, I'm going to go back to the question from Tobias from WaveTech. And this is for both Jad and Hande. In a B2B enterprise technology business, how important is it for the marketing senior team to be part of the actual sales process? So, for example, the sales presentations. And should the marketing also have KPIs similar to the sales in terms of conversion rate, example from lead to customer?
Maybe I can start and Jad, you can actually continue. Our product is an enterprise product, but it can be controlled through our control panel. So I can say that it's not a 100% self-serve, but it's built to be a self-serve, but at the same time, it requires a lot of support in terms of the optimum usage of the product. And when you do the sales, it doesn't require very strong technical knowledge, but you have to know the products well. And I think when you look at the role and job definitions or duties of the marketing and sales team, I think marketing team shouldn't have any connection or should be part of the actual sales process, because those are the things belongs to, or those are the duties of the sales people directly. So I don't think that any marketing people should be part of the sales process, because we have a very proper sales funnel where you start and then you do the couple of meetings. Sometimes you even need one more sales manager as a technical sales manager, and those 2 people come together and then they close the sales. And we have also sales ops team and also sales enablement team which trains them and also which tracks the metrics. I think marketing's job for contribution to sales should be only about bringing them leads through digital marketing. I don't see, especially for a company or product like us, I don't see any connection. I don't see any need that marketing team should be part of the sales process, sales funnel.
Jad, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I think the answer is it depends. It depends on the size of the company. It depends on the value proposition or the product. So there are many factors that would have to be taken into account. My point, which I mentioned earlier, is the relationship between these 2 functions is extremely important. So there needs to be strong coordination, proper feedback loop, right? And this gets more and more complex as the organization grows and the portfolio of products and services increases. So this linkage is very important. And one way to establish this linkage is through KPIs. Now, obviously, sales should be, again, as mentioned earlier, more sales-driven, conversion-driven, and it's a shorter-term focus. But in my view, there is merit in having shared incentives, shared targets. Now, the weight of these targets could differ. So obviously, the salespeople would have higher weight on conversion and actual sale. The marketing may be more on the quality of the leads and the conversion of the lead. But I think there is value in having shared incentives, specifically as the organization grows and these functions grow apart. Right? You don't want the silo to happen. Now, what also, and I guess we mentioned this as well. Typically, as the organization grows, you will have a lot of functions probably that are enabling functions that sit in between marketing and sales and could sit here or there. From sales operations to sales support, that also enable this kind of relationship to happen smoothly. In some cases, you have a pre-sales team, you have product managers in some cases that fulfill the role of a pre-sales function as again as the organization grows. So there's really no clear answer. It depends on the stage where you are in terms of evolution and development and maturity. It depends on the portfolio of products that you have and how complex or easy they are. But I've seen in some cases product managers actually going to market with sales, where it's a very complex solution that requires really deep knowledge and understanding of a certain product. So it really depends.
Thank you. So do we have any more questions from the entrepreneurs in the room?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm Youssef Shakor from Kilimanjaro in Morocco. We are a recycling company, so we collect used cooking oil from professional restaurants, and we recycle it into biofuel. And we used to be a physical company, so we are in a phase of transitioning from a pure physical company to a phygital company, where we want the relationship to be all digitalized. So what would be your advice for a transitional company which is moving its relation from this physical relationship to all digital company? We have run our pilot of digitalization. The impact are great. This is my first question. Second question is, we are targeting a closed universe. In our playbook for business development, what we do is we run a census of our what we call universe, i.e. restaurant. So we are in a closed universe. What would be your advice in terms of B2B marketing? And we know all of them, we have all their data, we have their mobile, we have their WhatsApp. So what would be your advice, Jad, especially, or Hande, for such a challenge?
Maybe Jad, you can start and I will continue.
Sure. So look, on taking a company from physical to digital, I think one important element is think of the journey of customers, right? So it's important that you kind of take yourself out of the physical world and reimagine what is possible using digital, right? I've seen many companies who are moving in this. They just take what they have in physical and they digitize it. So they automate, some interfaces and some processes, and they say, now we're digital. I think this move is an opportunity for you to take yourself out and potentially rethink, the way you deliver the service, rethink potentially even the value proposition. So use this as an opportunity to, and I'm stretching it, but I think it's a good opportunity to think, start with a clean slate and rethink how the journey of your customers need to be, using also a lot of the tools that digital provides you, right? Because there are things in the physical world that you do not have access to, that probably constrained you when you were doing the initial business model or the initial value proposition, which now you could probably break out from. So one, do not copy this lift and shift model that we see many companies do. You should try to avoid it, right? Don't take what you have and just digitize it. This is not the most effective way. Number two, I think what's important in the case of digital is even though we feel that this is a technology typically heavy investment or effort, but it's really not only a technology. It's typically a business, right, driven effort. So you need to make sure that the right stakeholders are involved. You as or the founders or the CEO or the leaders of this are really driving this, and it's not again a process improvement effort that is happening behind the scenes. And three, I think how do you, because as you're evolving into digital, there's a lot of impact on people, right? People typically companies typically fail to realize this, and you might fall in the trap of facing resistance or people not welcoming this new model that you're trying to adopt, and they create roadblocks for it, and they actually make it fail sometimes. So how do you take the I don't know in your case how many employees and how big the company is, but how do you take all the stakeholders in the company in this journey and create a purpose for them to participate, to to be engaged, and eventually be incentivized to help you achieve this objective. These are high level ideas. I know they're not specific to your situation, but again, it's not a lift and shift. It's needs to be led by from the top. It needs to be engaging with everyone across the organization. Yeah.
Jad, when we conducted this exercise, and what we discovered in Morocco, we have 12,000 active restaurants, and we found out that our share of wallet that we are getting from them is really ridiculous. We open a big account and we just collect the oil. So through digitalization, the opportunity that we found out that we may offer other services and maybe use database as a platform for other partners and become money generating engine out of the model, and serve better the customer journey, because people do not want to have multi-stakeholder. They want to have a group of and what about this closed universe? If you have you're targeting 100,000 restaurants across the region, you want to, how can you have an efficient communication with them and drive them to action? It's a sort of social network, professional social network. Is professional social network for businesses something that is used elsewhere, and is there any best practice we can learn from?
Yes, I think this network effect that you could generate from engaging with your captives, right? You have a captive business or segment or customer base that you could really leverage to kind of create a network effect, what we call a network effect of basically each customer could become a promoter of your business, and the way to engage them. I mean, there are different ways. Obviously, nowadays there are established social media platforms for businesses like like Yammer and others. But it all boils down, in my view, again, is to content. How do you generate content that is attractive to these customers so that they get engaged, and then they eventually generate also content to enrich, if you want, the interaction that happens within this community. So you need to be able to have same way that we have people that manage forums and manage manage kind of communities, and this has been there forever. Microsoft and other large enterprise focused companies have had these what they call MVPs, basically professional kind of moderators that are experts in the product that Microsoft has, to facilitate and to be moderating forums. So make sure that you are always generating new content, fresh content, engaging the the stakeholders, getting them to participate and become really create a cult-like culture. It's not easy, by the way, but it's definitely worthwhile in terms of the impact that you can generate, the ideas that you can use, ideas. So like the idea you mentioned, how do we broaden our business? If you don't engage with your captive, customer base, it's very difficult to test ideas. And that's another point, test ideas through the content you generate. These are customers that I would assume are loyal, are already there on the platform, so you could bounce ideas and test ideas with them, engage them in the process.
Hande?
I think Jad already mentioned many important points in terms of the technical side and maybe the action part. But maybe as a very high level contribution, I can mention that if you don't have it yet, Yusuf, maybe it will be a great time to bring the OKRs to the company. As Jad mentioned, KPIs are very important to measure the monthly performances, and it's kind of a tradition that's inside that, or kind of a thing that we use for a very long time since the beginning. But they are not enough. First of all, the common purpose for the company and indicating this big hairy goal is very important. And you can also define a couple of important objectives for the company, and under these objectives you can put your KRs. And it seems that this digitalization process is going to be can be an important big hairy goal of this quarter or the, let's say, year. So I think OKR methodology, although it seems very simple, it's very effective. KPI is kind of a snapshot, or let's say temporary snapshot of the month, and can't measure the performance as a whole. But I can say that OKRs will be much more better to help this transformation. Second thing is there's an important, I think, aspect which is undermined by many entrepreneurs or companies, which is the training via support teams. For example, we were doing face-to-face meetings with the enterprise clients, and we were believing that having a face-to-face meeting with enterprise clients is the only way of doing the sales. But with pandemic, it's changed. Now we have to do sales online. And one of the best moves that we have taken so far was building our sales enablement team, which actually trains our salespeople, plus align the information between the company, because you cannot actually know how much there will be a misalignment about the information when the company grows, when the team grows, when the people grows. So those trainings are very important for the adaptations. So I would definitely suggest you build a training team which will help you during this transformation period process. Those are my naive practices from insider.
So speaking of the pandemic, I didn't want to spend too much time on it, but Hande, what metrics are you tracking now more closely than you were tracking previously before the pandemic? And another question I wanted to ask, I think we have just about 8 minutes left, is what changes have you seen? So correct me if I'm wrong, Hande, the customers that you serve, like your target customers, are mostly B2C companies, right? Or do you also serve B2B companies?
No, 95% we are serving to B2C companies.
B2C, okay. So in addition to the question on the metrics, what changes, and maybe this benefits some of the B2C companies, I'm not sure if we have any in the room, but what changes have you seen in your customers' strategies during the pandemic? And is there a particular client that stands out for doing something, exceptionally well?
Yeah, let me start from the second question. It's I'm going to share with you, I think, very interesting statistics about pandemics for e-commerce or online businesses. First of all, for example, for US, it seems like the e-commerce sector or industry has grown as equal to the growth of the last 10 years in the last 3 months. So that's a very huge growth. So I can say that pandemic has a positive effect on the growth of the e-commerce. Of course, for some specific verticals. This is not the case for the airlines, obviously. This is not the case for the OTAs. So I think this, and you know what? The second important statistics, the digital marketing spendings and also digital marketing budgets has increased by 3 to 4% globally. So I would say that pandemic, I think, accelerated the digital transformation for all the world, including the e-commerce companies and their growth and their actually sales or transactions, because not all the online businesses doing sales, right? Some of them are online publishers, some of them are banks, some of them are, from another verticals. But of course, there's one vertical unfortunately negatively affected, which is the airlines and OTAs. So the strategy shift for those companies. I think this was the question you asked. For the airlines and OTAs or tourism-related online businesses, they start to spend that time to improve their UX, UI, and they are trying to be ready for their next customers. So the sales are lower, obviously, but they want to take this time to work on the things that they can't do maybe in a normal time. So, for example, we have signed a deal with British Airways a couple of months ago during the pandemic. Why? Because they wanted to work more on improving their UX, UI through user behavior. So that was a kind of of course, a bad period of time for them, but at the same time, good opportunity to improve those things that normally they don't have time. The strategy for the other e-commerce companies, if their sales are improving, because people are staying more at home and they buy more. And I think at some point, there are some postponed sales for those online businesses. For example, maybe because of the pandemic, we couldn't get out. And if you are going to, for example, buy a baby carrier, then you postponed it, right? But now, with the life going back to kind of normal, I think those postponed purchases are going to happen. So this is why they start to spend more money on digital marketing. They increase their digital marketing budgets. They now understand the importance of using tools like us for the optimization, because life is all about optimization, right? And it's more important in the pandemic than the other times. So I would say, as an overall, the strategy shift, they are much more aware of the importance of optimization and using the B2B SaaS tools to improve their conversions. So the first question, I always have many things in my mind. So what was the first question?
The first question was for you as a B2B business. What are you tracking closely now more than you were pre the pandemic?
Okay. I remember. So in terms of the key top 10 metrics of the company, they haven't changed. The gross margin, of course, monthly recurring revenue, L2Vs, customer acquisition costs, length of the sales cycle, forecast accuracy, how much, for example, sales we are expecting for the next month. Those are the top 10 metrics that I look at, in a very paranoid way every month. But what has changed? Well, of course, this is kind of a period of time that we have seen a little bit more churn because we lost some customers because of their verticals, because some of the customers had to stop the service because they don't have any sales, so they can't pay. So this is why we have seen a kind of increase in churn, which affected L2V, lifetime value, because churn is pretty much related to lifetime value is pretty much related to churn. So I become a little bit more obsessed about the lifetime values. Plus, of course, net dollar retention for a B2B SaaS company. Net dollar retention is so important. By the way, if you guys hasn't checked before the top 5 metrics for enterprise, you should check it. It includes, for example, net dollar retention. It includes rule of 40. So you should be, I think, tracking all of those metrics. So I think net dollar retention was another one that I'm checking, obsessively nowadays. And I start to give more importance to it after the pandemic. And the investors or the whole world, very, I think, I'm sorry to say that, in a very dumb way, they have given whole the world the advice that reserve the cash, right? And I think anyone who studied economics before, like me, I had my economic degree from London School of Economics, and I'm not a good economics person because, I'm not into this for a very long time, but there are one of the very basic principles that I know from also the school and from the book of Mankip. The expectations manage the markets. And they have created that expectation like, you should all stop your spendings, reserve your cash. And unfortunately, one of the things that we have been also been affected deeply was the payments, accounts receivables. Our accounts receivables has increased a lot because the company starts to reserve cash, which affected the actually demand, supply, everything in a negative way. So this is why since the start of the pandemic, I'm also checking our accounts receivables and day of outstanding or the all the related metrics for the cash balance also very insanely. We have funded at the middle of the pandemic, by the way, which was a challenge, but that's another story. Let's talk about this story maybe in another session. But even though we funded by $32 million, if you have trouble in your accounts receivable and if you can't fix that, which was pretty much about the pandemic that time, I think even you are going to fund your company for $100 million, then it won't work. I mean, you are going to expire your resources. So this was the other metric that I started to be obsessed during the pandemic.
Thank you. So before we wrap up, are there any other questions? I just want to be, actually, we're right on time. I don't think we have any more questions. I want to say thank you so much to Hande and Jad. I know that both of you moved things around to make this happen. I personally really, really enjoyed the session. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. For the participants, we'll be sharing the PowerPoint slides. Thank you, Jad. And for everyone else, we're just going to go on a break for the next 10 to 15 minutes. And then we're going to come back with a debrief from the session with Christoph. And then for the rest of the day, we have another super interesting panel discussion on emerging consumer trends, consumer behavior trends. And then we have the session with Chris Rogers on what investors really want. We're going to get a peek into how Chris Rogers thinks and what he's looking for when entrepreneurs are pitching. And then we are closing the day with a super special guest. He's the epitome of the Endeavor entrepreneur who was selected as an Endeavor entrepreneur, and now he's the chairman of Endeavor Argentina, Guibert. So we're closing the day with a session on entrepreneur epic fails. So I hope to see you there. So we'll see you back in 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, Dalia. Have a very nice day. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dalia, everyone.
See you.
Have a good day.